Welcome to today's first Chesapeake Chat session. I'm Victoria Mulvihill, and I'm here to introduce the first Chesapeake Chat sponsored by Newport News Shipbuilding. Just some housekeeping, we'll let the speaker present and then open up for discussion questions later on. Feel free to post questions in the comments throughout the chat, and we will try to answer them as soon as possible. The session today is Life After First. Is a paid apprenticeship in your future, part 2. And I'll now pass it over to our speaker, Taylor, who is an apprentice at the Newport News Apprentice School, to introduce herself.
Thank you. Yeah, so I am a Newport News Shipbuilding apprentice here at the Apprentice School. I came straight out of high school, so that was really neat. My only other job was working at Busch Gardens, and then I graduated high school, found out my senior year that I got accepted into the apprentice school, and now I'm a maintenance electrician, which is really neat that, you can come straight out of high school into a career. I started at $17 an hour, which is like really high, especially if you guys haven't had a job before, like that's really good. And then you always keep progressing throughout your apprenticeship, and you're learning a trade that you'd never learned before. So like in my case, when I applied, I was like, all right, I'm cool. I want to be a ship fitter or a pipe fitter or something cool that gets to work with metal and put it together. Well, when they called me for my interview, the interview went really good and everything. They called me for my offer. Actually, I was on my way to my senior softball game. So that was like awesome senior night. And they call me and they offer me a position as an electrician. And I'm like, what? That's not what I wanted. And I know nothing about electricity. So I don't know, just see what happens. And it ended up being really great. And I love it so far. I have a year and a half left. And it's really neat because it's not every day you can graduate high school and then know in 4 years you'll be graduating from an apprenticeship making like $30 or more an hour. So it's kind of cool. And depending who you are, you can end up graduating with different types of degrees. They do engineering degrees, different business degrees. It's really cool. Right now I'm on the path to become a foreman when I graduate. I'm in the Frontline Fast program. So basically I get leadership experience as I go to school. I get to fill in for my boss, and it's really cool. That's me in a nutshell. Both my parents were apprentices. That's how I kind of heard about it. Other than that, we never really had any scouts come out or anything. So that's what I'm trying to do is like, hey, you guys should really check it out. Even if you're not sure about it. It's a great alternative to other traditional like colleges.
So for someone, sorry, what were you gonna say?
You're good.
Okay, so for someone who doesn't maybe know what an apprentice is, can you just explain the process that like you went through?
Okay, so an apprentice is somebody who is learning a trade. They could have knowledge about it already or know nothing at all about it. So in my case, I come into it and I know nothing about my trade at all. So I'm going to go into a crew and they're going to teach me as we go. They're not going to throw me to the wolves and be like, yeah, this is the hardest job we got. You got this. No, they're going to take your time. You have classes that are trade specific. So like I'm an electrician, so I go to electrical theory classes. We have painters, they go to painting classes. Like it's really trade specific. And then also at the apprentice school, there's classes that you take that cover everything. So that's really neat too. So it's like you have your world class, which everyone has to go take, but then you also have your trade specific. So you start doing those classes, you learn more and more about your specific trade. You build bonds with the people in world class that are in different trades, and you really just learn together. And it's not so like when I was first starting out, I was really hard on myself. Like, man, why aren't you getting this? Why aren't you getting faster? But it really just takes time, and it's great how much you see that other shipbuilders are motivating you because they're like, hey, I want you to learn this too. So it's pretty neat. That's kind of what an apprentice is. You just have to have patience and be willing to get stuff wrong a lot, like all the time.
And how long have you been with the school?
I've been an apprentice now for like 2.5 years, September. And I think my favorite thing about it so far is it's not like you get put into one specific group of people and work with them for all 4 years. You get put in a crew, and usually it's like all apprentices in that group, and so you're all learning together. Once you're confident enough in your abilities, you usually rotate out to a non-apprentice crew. So you might be the only apprentice in that group of people, and they're all going to try and teach you everything. So it's pretty neat. As long as you're engaging, they're engaging back. So you rotate all over the shipyard. You see all different types of things, and it's really neat. I love that because you get to see where you fit in best.
And what's your favorite thing that you've been able to be a part of and learn?
Oh gosh.
Or just maybe your top 3.
Yeah, there's a lot. So really anything. So I'm a maintenance electrician, so that's the best trade of all. Like if you apply, you should definitely choose that one. My favorite thing is some of the stuff I learned at school, I'm able to apply at home also because of the trade I was given. So that's kind of like, oh, lucky me. Like it's pretty neat. I can't talk too much about all the stuff I do, but it's worth looking into.
What is something that you can share with us that is something that you like to do, or like that you can, I don't know. Did you have any experience with being an electrician before apprenticeship? You said no, right? So
Right.
How was that transition?
It was really scary because electricity is obviously very scary. You can't see it, you can't smell it. It's just there, right? So
Right.
the shipyard is so safe. There are so many different classes I had to take and learn, and being in that apprentice crew and leaning on one another and really getting the feel for, all right, this is what we're doing. It's safe. It was really neat how they make you feel confident. You respect that, but it's still there, so you got to know. What did you say? Oh yeah. So the apprentice school is really cool because it's not just, all right, go to work, go to class, cool, we're done. We have sports, we have clubs. So you get paid, and that's kind of neat. But you also have a student government system. So right now I'm the president, so that's kind of neat. We do different volunteer events. We have different apprentice sponsored events. Like we have a huge holiday party at the end of the year, and we give away prizes. And last year we rented out the Air and Space Museum, and we all went there and had a really good time. And it's just pretty neat because it's more than just it's a community. Like we really get to know each other and go to classes, and it's just really neat. It's not just a go to class, go to work. Although it can be really hard. Think about it. It's an 8-hour job. You're 3 days on the water, 2 days in class. So it can be a lot for anybody who's not used to working. It can be a shock sometimes. But yeah, we have. Oh, sorry. We have lots of different clubs and sports: basketball, football, wrestling, baseball, and then we have robotics club. We have different types of volunteering organizations that we help out. So it's kind of neat. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Nothing. There's a question. What sort of controls do you work on that you can tell us about?
So for me, it's not so much controls that I work on. Sometimes I'll go into different machines and work on their programmings. But I more keep the entire shipyard running. So if there's power loss somewhere, I do different rotations. Like I did a high voltage rotation where if there was a power loss somewhere, I'd have to go fix that. Right now, I'm working on most of the dry docks and piers to make sure that they're up and ready all the time in case we need to bring a boat in or something's changing. That's what I do right now. But yeah, so there's been different, it's kind of cool. Sure, I get to solder some components sometimes, and that's kind of neat. Wow, I'm really making a difference. I'm really taking this piece off and putting this piece on, and now it works. So it's really neat to be able to see that and troubleshoot yourself. It's kind of cool because I'm getting to that point in my apprenticeship where they can rely on me a little bit more to lead jobs and teach other apprentices. So that's a great opportunity too, because like I said, I want to be a leader someday. So it's kind of cool that I can already get people to kind of look up to me and ask questions. Let's see. Is there more questions or?
Yeah, there's another one. It was, what is your troubleshooting process to solving a power outage?
All right, so it just depends on what exactly the outage is. You always start at all right, if you start at the actual source. So let's say a machine goes down, you go to that machine and just make sure, because sometimes, maybe it's an operator error, maybe he just hit the wrong button. Go in there, make sure, and then we literally try and trace out the problem. So you just work backwards from there, and it's kind of neat. So,
more on just kind of what the apprentice school is. How did you said both your parents were apprentices too, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of knew more about it going into like the process of like what it was, like how it worked and everything. But for maybe somebody who listening to you thinks, oh, that's really, really cool. Like, how do you prepare? How do you get involved with that so that you can have that transition into?
Okay, so the apprentice school can be difficult to get into. There are, if you go online and look up apprenticeschool.com, you can see the requirements and how to apply. You have to be math inclined. You have to want to learn that. Like, you can't just go and, yeah, I'm an English major, I want to be an apprentice. No, you have to know that it might be hard, it might be rough, but teachers here are very helpful. The only if you're a high school graduate, you can apply. Like, as long as you have the classes that they list, and it's all math or STEM related classes. It's not like, oh yeah, Spanish 5, and no, it's pretty cool. Did that answer that question?
That does. Thank you. I was just wondering.
No, you're good. So it's pretty neat. So let's say you just applied and you got in. Awesome. Maybe you got the trade you wanted, maybe you didn't. Either way, cool, you're in. Your first year is going to be that mandatory school that I talked about that everybody takes. And so once you get through that, that's when you can make your decision like, okay, cool. Now I want to go on to get my engineering degree. Now I want to go get my business degree. Or now I want to go try and learn how to be a leader if I can. And that's what I'm doing. Or let's say none of those are really appealing to you and you really love your trade and where you're at. You can stay right there, and that first year of school can be all that you do for the rest of your apprenticeship. So that's kind of neat if you just want to get a feel for it first, and like you're still making that decision in your first year. That's okay. You don't have to have your plan set in stone on day one. And there's lots of people who help you and guide you along the way. Yeah, so like for example, I spent 6 months in my apprentice crew, like I talked about, and I still call my instructor. Like today, I called him, making sure I was, making the right decision or making sure I had the right part for a job. And it's kind of cool because everybody's like a team, and it's like more like a family now that I'm actually into it.
That's really neat. You said, when you first got your position, you were like, oh, I don't know about that. Is there a chance, is there a way for people who are maybe like into something that they're maybe not so good at? Can you switch, or do you just kind of have to like stick it out and see how it goes and try your best?
Right. So it's definitely case by case. You can't just come in and be like, all right, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to switch. No, you have to actually try. So for example, I had a friend of mine, he was hired on as a machinist, and he was like super smart, straight A's, trying his very best in his trade. But he killed every part he tried to make. That wasn't hit for him. So they were like, you know what? You're still a great person. You're still a great apprentice. We're going to change your trade. So it's more case by case. You can't just come in and be like I couldn't have came in day one and been like, oh no, I want to be a pipe fitter. No, I have to actually show, hey, this trade isn't for me. It's definitely case by case, and you have to talk, and they're going to try and help you as much as they can. It's not just like, oh yeah, haha, you're stuck with that. No, it's kind of cool.
Another question was like, do you have like your living situation there? Do you have like lodging, or did you have to move down there yourself, or how was your situation? Because both your parents like had come in apprenticeship.
Right. Now there's no like dorms or anything like that. There is an apartment complex right behind me that you get a deal for living at if you're an apprentice. I was lucky my parents lived close here, so I lived with them for my first year. And let me just say, by the time I was a year in, I had made enough money working at the apprentice school to buy my own house. So now I live in my own house, and I'm 21 years old, and I haven't even graduated from my school yet. So there's that. It's kind of neat. So yeah, there is the apartments, and they do, I think they do payroll deduction maybe. Don't quote me because I didn't live there, but they do some deals for apprentices. Like that's who they cater to. So I mean, there is lodging here, and it's literally like maybe a 15-minute walk to your job site. So that's kind of cool.
That's really neat. I think it's so cool that you are you are so young and you have this like great opportunity to, you know, grow as your own self. Like, what's something that you've learned about yourself through this process?
Definitely my confidence. Because coming into this, I had never worked, like, my only other job, I worked at Busch Gardens as, I was one of the scare people at Hollow Scream. Like, that was it. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, nice. It was kind of cool. Coming in and then learning, like, I can actually do things. I can actually make things, like, it's just neat being able to make decisions on your own, or be like, hey, you know what, I think that's wired up wrong. Let me look at it again. Or being able to call people out and, like, do it yourself. And that's my biggest thing. I've definitely learned more confidence, and that's kind of just it. In leadership, before, so all through high school, I was never involved in anything, and now I'm the president of my students. So there's like, it completely made me come out of my shell and do things that I never thought I would be doing. So it's kind of neat, eye-opening, really.
That's really neat.
Oh yeah, and like I'm
What other advice do you have, just in general, for students, or just something you know, it's one of those things that doesn't really fit into a category, but you want to share about what you do?
Right. So just as a person, and like as going through my experiences, I know that even like most of, all right, I don't know who's watching this. It could be, you know, parents, it could be teachers, it could be students. No matter who you are, like, the school is an option for you. Like, don't think age is a problem. It's not. Or education. As long as you graduate from high school, even, all right, let's say you graduate from high school and you don't have those classes that you need, the school has a night school program that you can look into. Apply to the shipyard itself, take night school classes, and then apply to the school. Work your way around it, and you'll get there. What was the question? I'm not answering the question. What was it?
You answered the question about. You're good. What's next for you after you finish your apprenticeship?
Right now, so I'm, like I said, I'm in that point where I'm kind of starting to see where I fit in. Yeah. And right now I'm planning on, well, let me start off. I'm in the Frontline Fast program, that leadership thing. So I'm going to have some special rotations that are outside of my trade. So that's really exciting. This far into my apprenticeship, I've fallen in love with this one crew, and they work on cranes. They maintain and make sure the cranes are up to spec, and, you know, if something breaks down, they go and fix it before, you know, a load drops or something. It's kind of exciting. So that's, if I were to finish right now, that's where I would end up. My next rotation, which will be in July, you rotate like every 4 to 6 months, depending on your trade. I'll be a planner for that same crew. So that's kind of exciting. That'll be a whole, that's nothing. I'm not an electrician anymore. I'm going to sit in an office and plan jobs out and order material and do whatever, because I haven't even done it yet. So I already know what I'm going to be doing. So I'll do that for a few months, and then I'll rotate again for a few months. So it's kind of neat. Yeah, what was the question? I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's the end of the week, I know. But what was next for you after the apprentice program?
Okay. So I'll probably either go back to that crane crew, definitely stick at the shipyard, although there's no contract, so I don't have to. So that's kind of neat, but that just makes me love it even more. But depending on how the special rotations go, maybe I'll end up somewhere else. It's really not, it's never set in stone. I'm still a year out, right?
Yeah. How is it looking back at yourself? I know you said your confidence grew, but just looking back at yourself at the start of this apprenticeship and to where you are now and what you have yet to accomplish with it.
Yeah, well, it's just crazy because, so, man, looking back, I've changed so much, and in a good way, yeah. And I'm way more responsible now. Like, yeah, I have a house. But it's kind of cool. I've made a lot more friends, and it's just, I don't even know how to explain it. I feel like a whole new person. I feel like I'm finally like, oh wow, I'm an adult now. It's kind of cool. But yeah, it's changed a lot. And even now, like, I see myself growing every day. Thinking back to the first time I wired up a certain type of plug, and, like, you know, how long it took me and timing myself, and now doing it, like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Wow, I've definitely improved. And being able to explain jobs to other apprentices, and just know that, wow, like I can do stuff. I feel more encouraged.
And what are those other types of jobs that you could have?
So you mean like when I finish?
Well, just what other kind of programs could you have, like apprenticeship programs?
Okay.
Like
so like
through the
I'm
program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm an electrician. There's a whole list of them. I might not know them all by heart. So, but most of them, yes. So you could be a rigger who helps pick, like if a crane's trying to pick something up, you could be the person that actually helps it pick it up and operate the crane. So you could do that. You could be a ship fitter who actually helps make the boat itself. Pipe fitters who do pipes. We have HVAC people. That's a really cool trade to get into. They don't accept a lot of people, but think about learning how to work on an HVAC unit and AC units by yourself, and like not by yourself, but you learning it is kind of neat. There's a lot of trades. Like we have coating specialists who paint a lot. Well, they're coating specialists, but yeah. We have insulator trades. There's so many. Outside machinists, inside machinists, which is really cool. A lot of you guys, with FIRST Robotics would probably think that was really neat, getting to make your own parts and see how they, ultimately fit together to make a, huge aircraft carrier. It's just really cool. There's a lot. Yeah, there's welders. There's a lot of different trades. And it doesn't stop there. So let's say you got your base trade, right? Whatever it is, there's a whole list of them that just goes on. I think I don't even want to guess how many there are. Let's say you get your trade, you get through world class, and then you want to go into an advanced program, or get your engineering or business or whatever. You can do that. You can get an associate's degree in your trade, or you can move on to one of the more advanced trades. They only select a very few people for those trades because they want to make sure you're a motivated individual and that you have your bases covered. So, for example, so my dad graduated the apprentice school as an X11 ship fitter, and now he is a dimensional control tech, which is kind of neat. As soon as he graduated, he went into that trade. He didn't do any advanced things. Only very few trades have the ability to immediately fall into an advanced trade. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
If you're not in one of those trades that like you immediately get accepted if you try, you just have to go to school and learn about it. It's kind of neat. There's a lot of different advanced trades out there, but that's the alternate path to what I'm taking. I'm doing the frontline fast one, so I don't know everything about that path, but it's definitely there, and a lot of people take advantage of it. Okay, so I was not on a team when I was not on a FIRST Robotics team as high school or anything. Once I got into the apprenticeship, however, one of my instructors is involved in his team, and he's a coach for, I forget the name, but they meet. I've gone to a few of their meetings and helped their students along, and I've also gone to a few competitions myself as a volunteer. So that's how FIRST chimes in with me in my life.
And what do you think of the FIRST community in general? Not being somebody who wasn't a part of it as a student, but kind of from that outsider's perspective on it.
I think it's pretty neat. I wish I would have been involved as a student, and whenever I have kids, I want them to be involved because it definitely gives you a leg up in the way you think about things and just the community itself and being reliable on one another. And like, it's kind of neat, the opportunities that it gives. Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, I think it's cool that you have been able to be a part of the community from like with your experience now, and everything that you know is so valuable to like some of the students that are in robotics teams now. So I think that's really cool. You could be a great mentor one day.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of neat. If any students watching, if you guys do any New Horizons classes or anything like that, we've been doing a mentorship here at the apprentice school a little bit. I've been involved with that, where we take we took some New Horizons students who were studying different things like welding or architecture and just different things like that, and we brought them in and we taught them math and we talked to them, and I was a mentor, and we met like once a month. I met with them, but they were here like every day out of the week almost, and it was pretty neat. So always look for those opportunities because they are there. Even now, if you're, a junior in high school or even a sophomore, like, look for stuff. Don't just wait till senior year. Like, okay, cool. I guess I'll do this with my life, because it's kind of a big decision.
That's neat. I do not see questions. But I have another question for you. If I can figure out how to word it. But I think what you're doing is really, really cool, and it does seem like it's a good alternative for trying to figure out what you're doing and to learn a lot of valuable skills. So for somebody who maybe did a different path than you did, what would that kind of look like than like having the electrical background or classes that you're doing now?
Okay, so you mean like if someone came in a different trade, how would that? So they still have their classes and they still have an apprentice crew that they're in, and it's really the same, except you're learning a whole nother side of things. So still, when you're in my part, like, all right, you're 2.5 years in, you're starting to see where you fit in. Maybe you don't fit in anywhere. Maybe you want to go advanced and find somewhere else that you're going to fit in. So it's all pretty much the same. Every single trade has at least one lead craft instructor and other craft instructors that you can lean on and talk to, like, hey, I'm really not understanding this. I'm in this crew now. What does this mean? And they'll help you along the way, which is my favorite thing. And you also get feedback every single month. So you don't only have your school grades, but you have your shop grades too. And so once a month, you'll sit down with your craft instructor and he'll talk to you about, hey, this is what your foreman said about you. This is what you can improve on. So it's kind of neat the way that works out. You get to see how you go. And now I can look back and see, hey, this is how my grades were when I started. This is how they are now. I've really improved. So that's like my favorite thing about it. Is there more questions now, or?
I don't see any others, but do you have just any last remarks that you want to say about anything that we haven't covered today?
If you're watching this right now, you should apply to the apprentice school, and if you don't get in, you should keep applying. That's about my biggest, word of encouragement. Because I mean, even if you apply and you get accepted and you don't like it, I mean, you're better than you were, in my opinion. But that's just me. Just keep whatever. If you have a dream, just pursue it. Really, I don't know. I didn't really have one, so I just tried to find one, and it worked out.
I think that's very inspiring.
Well, thanks.
So thank you again for all that you have said today, and just the encouragement that it gives students and anybody who's watching this to look into the apprenticeship program. So thank you, Taylor, for everything. I'm glad that you could join us today. So I would like to thank you and our sponsor, Newport News Shipbuilding, for today's session. We have a short video for you to watch, so please stick around and have a great rest of your day.